April 30th, 2006, the Sacramento Kings would get their last taste of the NBA playoffs for the next 16 seasons. After the 2006 season, the Sacramento Kings would experience one of the greatest downfalls in both sports and NBA history as a whole, and cement themselves as one of the worst organizations among NBA circles. Despite this record-breaking playoff drought, however, the Sacramento Kings still statistically are not the worst organization in the NBA. The stigma of the Kings being the worst team is mainly because of the recency bias of their playoff drought. But the discussion of the worst organization in the NBA should not be discussed based on recent results, but as the franchise's success in its entirety. As someone who grew up in Sacramento and has been a Kings fan my whole life and watched them play, it is unfair to label the Kings as the worst team in the NBA. Contrary to popular belief, the Sacramento Kings are not the worst organization in the NBA because of their historic postseason success, their valuations and economic contributions toward the NBA, as well as their passionate and loyal fan base. So why do so many NBA fans truly believe that the Kings are the worst team in the league? Is it because of their record-breaking playoff drought, failed draft picks, failed managerial decisions, or even the Sacramento area? I think first it's important to discuss why so many NBA circles dislike the Kings franchise. It's undeniable that the last 16 seasons for the Sacramento Kings and the Kings fans have been rough. Not only have they posted a record-breaking 16-year playoff drought, but they also have been unable to attract talent to their roster. According to StatMuse.com, a data analytics sports page records that the last Sacramento Kings All-Star was DeMarcus Cousins in the 2016 to 2017 NBA season. The Kings have also struggled to attract big-name free agents because of the Sacramento area, and have also failed with many draft picks, drafting many busts such as Marvin Bagley, Nick Stauskas, and Jimmer Fredette. These are the main arguments pinned against the Kings to make them seem to be as the worst organization in the NBA. However, this is unfair, and it does not constitute the definition of the worst organization in the NBA. If we were to make the argument that not making the postseason for the Kings is what constitutes them as being the worst organization in the NBA, then I believe it is unfair, and we should also consider what the Kings have been able to do when they actually have reached the postseason. The Sacramento Kings have made the playoffs 27 times, ranking them in the top half of the NBA league, and comparing them to one of the worst teams making the postseason, the New Orleans Pelicans, have only made the playoffs 9 times in their franchise's history. In addition, in the times that the Kings have made the postseason, they have made it to the Western Conference Finals in 2002 to 2003 against the Los Angeles Lakers, and have actually posted an NBA championship under the Rochester Royals banner. This is a feat that only 20 NBA teams have been able to accomplish, making them automatically better than 10 other teams in the NBA in that statistical category. In addition to the Kings' postseason success, they're also one of the most valued NBA teams economically. Just like any business, a good measurement of an organization's success is how much revenue and money they are able to generate. In an article composed by hoopshype.com, they make a list ranking the NBA teams from the highest valuation to the lowest, putting the Kings right at 15, making them league average. For those who don't know, a valuation is basically a term that is typically used to define an organization's or business's net worth, so essentially their net worth. To give perspective, the Hoopsite article makes the Kings more valued than some of the NBA's most storied franchises, such as the San Antonio Spurs, Milwaukee Bucks, Denver Nuggets, Phoenix Suns, and Utah Jazz. According to Statista.com, another data analytics sports page, they value the Sacramento Kings at $2 billion. This number puts them also at league average, and only 3 teams having a valuation higher than $5 billion, being the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the New York Knicks. With all the statistical arguments that the Sacramento Kings have to back them for not being the worst organization in the NBA, they also have one of the most loyal and passionate fan bases in the league. Without making the postseason in the last 16 years since 2006, it is easy and reasonable for the Kings fans to give up on their organization. However, the opposite has happened, and the Sacramento City and Kings fans have fought to keep their team in their hometown, even in the threat of relocation. In an article written by sportscasting.com, They rank the Kings fan base as fourth at best in the NBA because of their loyalty and ability to fill up the arena despite having consecutive losing seasons. In 2013 was the Kings' biggest threat to relocate when a Seattle ownership group almost bought the Kings from Sacramento. However, the Kings fans, the Kings organization, the Sacramento City, and the NBA fought hard to keep their hometown team. After a grueling battle between Seattle and Sacramento, the Kings ultimately won, and a CNN article reported the Kings officially staying in Sacramento as an ownership group was approved by the NBA to buy the Kings, led by Vivek Ranadive. Furthermore, it is no doubt that NBA players, once they experience the Kings, they instantly fall in love with the city and its people. A quote from a Royal Pain Kings article that discusses the uniqueness of Kings fans, it states, "The Kings community is not your ordinary fan base. In fact, they're a uniquely strange group of people in a good sense. They are not only invested into the team's top players, but also throughout their entire roster." In the same game that this article was written about, a G League call-up, Jack Cooley, was called into the game to play, and he received chants from the whole entire Golden One Center. It is rare that you see an NBA fan base fall in love with all the players throughout the roster, even while posting 16 consecutive losing seasons, but that's who the Sacramento Kings fan base is. Ultimately, to close, it is very evident that the last 16 years for the Kings has been very rough. Not making the postseason in 16 years. However, statistically, the Kings still post one of the better historic postseason successes, are one of the NBA's most valued teams economically, and are homes to one of the most loyal and passionate fan bases in the league. All in all, I think as sports fans and NBA fans, it is unfair to judge an NBA team based on their recent success and to determine that they're the worst organization based on their recent struggles. I think it's unfair for us to view them as such, but rather view them as their franchise's entirety. Coming from a Kings fan who has been a Kings fan all my life, thank you for listening to my presentation on why the Kings are not the worst organization in the NBA.